Thank you for taking the time to watch my video. I really appreciate it. If you enjoyed this, please give it a thumbs up. That will help YouTube to promote my content. If you have any questions or comments, please leave those as well, and I will respond. Thank you again. Today we're going to do, again, something a little different. I've got here what I call a shock bowl. It's just a bowl I turned out of a piece of wood that was a little too small. It's not something that I would normally sell. It's something I just have in my shop that I clean up some small pieces of wood and practice with. This one I did, you can see there, I did in 2019 at the start of COVID. I called it my COVID-19 bowl. Sorry, that was upside down. COVID-19. So I did this again just for practice, and I just had it sitting on my nightstand. But today we're going to do something interesting to this. We're going to embellish it, and you'll see in a moment how I've done that. Again, we're going to do something a little different today. I'm going to show you a Lichtenberg device that I made. Now, before I show you what I've made, I do feel that I need to give you some safety information. This is made from a microwave transformer, and as such, it puts out over 2,000 volts at 500 milliamps. This can kill you. And I'm not being over dramatic. That current will kill you. Chances of you getting burnt are very slim. The chances of you dying are exceptionally high. So you do have to be careful with this device. So I'm not going to go into the details of how I made it, other than if you want to know, contact me and I can show you. It is a microwave transformer. I have some leads here, and I put those onto the wood with some electrodes, and I end up with a burn pattern that looks like this. And later in the video you'll see how I did this, and give you some information on that. And then later on, after that, I'm going to do some burning on a bowl that I've made. I will give you one piece of design information. This is known as a dead man switch. So what I have here is I have my plug that I plug into the wall, and I've kept my cord relatively short to my switch. So this switch has to be pretty close to the plug-in. I have no power going to my transformer, even when it's plugged in, unless I'm holding the switch down. When I let it go, the power stops. That's why it's called a dead man switch. So in my design, I've kept this cord short intentionally so that when I do have it plugged in, I cannot reach these electrodes because I'll be too far away. So it's just an extra safety feature. I really do encourage anyone that's interested in making a Lichtenberg device. There's all kinds of information on the internet. And that's where I did a lot of research before I did it. And you can get a lot of information. But I really do encourage you to put a dead man switch in the loop on the power supply side coming to the transformer. That way, without this button pushed, you have no power coming to the transformer and therefore no risk at the electrodes. So that's my safety device. Now I'll just go on and show you what I did with it and how it worked. Since this is my first time using the Lichtenberg device, I decided to use a piece of scrap plywood just to do some test burns. Here you can see my setup. I have my transformer setting on an insulating piece of material. The electrodes are on clamps that have rubber handles on them, supported by blocks. Everything is on wood, so it's fairly well insulated. Too much water on the surface and you won't get any burn. The electricity just skims across the water. If it's too dry, it also won't burn wood. So you have to experiment and get it just right. I found what works best is to put a fair bit of water onto the surface, let it soak for 15 to 20 minutes, and then come back and tie up areas as required. as I mentioned earlier, I have a dead man switch that's leading up to my transformer. I have to push this button in order to have power coming to the transformer and to my leads. This dead man switch has a short cord from the electrical outlet, so I'm off screen with it, but it's short enough that I cannot reach the electrodes while there's power onto the transformer. You can see it's a bit of a trial and error. I end up moving the electrodes around fairly frequently and also experimented with the amount of water that I put onto the wood. In order to conduct the electricity, you need to have a solution of water and baking soda. You can just keep the electrodes in one place and just keep burning. This tends to give very deep burns, especially emanating right from the electrode. I moved it around fairly frequently just because I wanted some finer burns with some finer details. Here's my finished product. After I finished the burn, I then sanded the surface down just to remove any surface char so that you could see the finer details that are into the wood. So here I'm ready to begin on the bowl. So what I did is I wet the bowl down, 1 cup of water, hot water, and 1 tablespoon of baking soda. I brushed that over the whole bowl, let that sit for 20 minutes so it would soak in. And then I just took the paintbrush and just brushed over this area here where I want to do it again, where I want to actually do the burn. So I'm all set. You can see my electrodes. I'm not going to touch them. They're not live, but I just don't want to move them. So I have one here at the top and one at the bottom. I want the burns to go top to bottom. So that's why I've placed them like that. They're here on a block of wood. The bowl's on a block of wood. My transformer's on a piece of HTP. So it's pretty well insulated. Now the other thing is, I mentioned the other day in my video, I have a kill switch, a dead man switch. It's over here. My cord is very short to the wall, so I cannot reach from here to the electrodes. And I do not have power going to my transformer unless I'm pushing this red button. So we'll go ahead and give that a try. So I've let go of my dead man switch, so I have no power, so it's safe to come over here. You can also hear the transformer buzzing as well, so you know whether or not you're getting anything. Now I didn't get any burn. I knew that because I could see that. Just for the sake of the camera, I have it turned around this way. Once I do the first burn, I'm probably going to turn it the other way so that I can see it as well. So now I'm just going to take a soft wire brush and just brush out some of the ash out of the heavier spots before I sand it. It just takes away some of the ash that otherwise will just smudge when I go to sand it. I want to keep my sanding to a minimum because I don't want to lose that kind of detail. I need to get this surface clean, but I don't want to lose this fine detail that we have here. Since this bowl was already finished, I had no way of clamping it onto my lathe. The foot has been turned off, and I could put it into a large chuck here and hold it from the rim. Problem is I've got the burn pattern right to the top of the rim, so I wouldn't be able to sand that. So what I've done is basically a jam cleat. I've got a piece of wood inside the bowl that presses up against the bottom, and then I just bring my tailstock up and push it. So everything's just being pushed and sandwiched together. I got it pretty well balanced. That's the trick, to just make sure you get it balanced. It's turning fairly well. That's quite enough to sand it. You'll notice a couple things there. I keep my hands on it as I'm turning it. It's not going to go anywhere because the piece inside's all the way inside, but it could flop around. So I just kind of keep my hands on it to steady it. And I do have to tighten it up every once in a while. But you can see there it's starting to get a lot cleaner. It's looking a lot better. That mark there has gotten less. I can still see it. And I've still got some smudgy looking things down here, but again, it's going to be a trade-off of maintaining detail and yet cleaning those out. This one, for example, I don't know if you can see it, but that's actually a deep burn pit. So there's no way I'll be able to take that piece out. So I'll sand it some more and then we'll take another look. That may be about as far as I want to go. Again, I'm just afraid of losing all that fine detail. I've got just a little bit more down here at the bottom where I couldn't get because of this block. But once that's done, then we'll go ahead and put the finish on it. I started sanding this at 120 grit and sanded up to 600 with a combination of paper and power sanding. I think that's about as far as I want to go. I'm starting to lose a little bit of the detail, so it's pretty clean. I'm just going to wipe it down with denatured alcohol and then we'll apply finish. After I rubbed it down with the rubbing alcohol and had finished sanding it, then I applied a polyurethane semi-gloss spray finish. Because of the rough surface, I didn't want to use a rub finish, but rather use the spray. Here's my finished product. After I finished the burn, I then sanded the surface down just to remove any surface char so that you could see the finer details that are into the wood.